Thank you, Steve, for sharing this scripture about Joel. This is continuing our series on the Beatitudes, which is in Matthew chapter 5. And we've been going through them line by line and trying to understand what it means to be blessed and what it means to be perhaps even a blessing to others. And this week we're looking at this one. It says, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God." And when I think about this particular one, I find it very strange because, and I get cynical almost immediately, and I try to refute something that the Lord said. And my brilliant rebuttal is that, well, who is pure in heart? I don't know anybody who's pure in heart. And and I kind of think, well, this is probably one way that Jesus just got it wrong. Maybe the translation is poor, or maybe he was speaking in hyperbole, or maybe he just you ever do this? Those of you who are athletes, you start making the free throw one after another, and you assume that you're just going to keep on making it. Well, then you miss one. Well, I kind of think that maybe that's what Jesus did in this particular one. He hit some real great ones. I mean, blessed are the poor in spirit. That's beautiful, right? Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are the meek. All that stuff is just, these are spiritual home runs. Sorry for two sports metaphors in a row. But when he gets to blessed are the pure in heart, I'd have to think that that maybe he doesn't know what he's talking about, and that maybe pure in heart, maybe that's where he confused his own messianic superpowers with what we know as humanity, which is anything but pure most of the time. But maybe we can just kind of give the Lord credit. Maybe just give the Lord a little bit of credit, okay? That perhaps purity of heart is possible. I know that sounds almost crazy to me too. Um, but I want to stick with it for a second, because purity of heart doesn't necessarily have to mean that you're done with sin, or that you've never sinned, or that you never will sin again. But I think about purity of heart in terms of those moments in time in which you have great clarity. You have great clarity about life, or the world, or God, or your purpose. Great clarity. And I this is why I picked this passage from Joel. If you go to any of the prophets, almost all of the prophets, um, the prophets have usually a plot line. A plot line is something of Israel's in trouble, or Judah's in trouble. God sends a warning. The people don't really obey. They're stubborn, and they're cold hearted. Um, and then God sends some sort of corrector, someone who will correct. Usually someone who corrects with punishment or some awfulness. And then there's a time in which, okay, the people come around. They've had enough, and they want to come back to God. And part of the coming back to God is this vision of the future, vision of what's next. And you can think of it's not even just the prophets, but even just like, think about it in the Moses days, when they were crossing the Red Sea, they were leaving behind their time of slavery. Well, what's ahead for them? Somebody, at least Moses, had a vision of the promised land and of arriving at the promised land. And I would have to think that, like, despite all of their humanity and all of their imperfections, and even in all of their sin, even this vision, but this vision is some sort of, there's some sort of purity to it. There's some goodness to it. It's aspirational. It is something that people can, a hope that people can grasp and can strive towards. I think this next story might be a rerun, but I'll share it anyhow because I think it illustrates kind of purity of heart. So Meredith had a parishioner who was on hospice, and in ministering to this parishioner on hospice, there came a time in which um, the the parishioner kind of came to the moment of ultimate realization, and often when that happens, there's times of confession, there's times of course, memory and remembrances. And in the process, something that this lady said to Meredith was, she was recounting, things of her life. And then she had this moment of almost exasperation, but of celebration too, in which she said repeatedly with tears and laughter all at the same time, I just love everybody. I just love everybody. And you and Meredith has recounted the story to me several times, that there was this sense that, like, almost of accomplishment, that the parishioner was not ignorant of people being bad and doing bad things, but had made a conscious effort to choose to love, conscious effort to choose to love. And if ever there was a purity of heart, it was in this confession. I just love everybody. I don't know if I love everybody yet. I do think that when I try, I can. I know that I get lazy and I can fall into cynicism, and I can fall into um, kind of groupthink, right? Where you put people in boxes and you erase their details and you reduce them to whatever box you just put them in. I can do that with the best of them. I do know that when I try, when I seek to understand people, that I don't think there's anybody that I can't love. Doesn't mean I like. It does mean that I try to understand and try to feel what's underneath all the stuff. Um, and I don't know if I'm pure of heart. So purity of heart is like loving everyone. Everyone. It's kind of this goal, right? You run the race, and when you cross through the finish line, sorry, that's my third sports analogy. But what is the finish line? It's the ability to love everybody and to see them for who they are, and see them for how God sees them. And maybe purity of heart is also the vision for the future. I don't know anybody who envisions a future or hopes for a future of awfulness. It's usually peace and understanding and everyone having enough. those kinds of visions often have a purity to them as well. So, blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. And today, I want to throw off cynicism. I want to throw off disbelief. And I want to take the Lord at his word that being pure of heart is possible. I can do it. You can do it. With the Lord's help, certainly, but I can do it and you can do it. You can love everybody. You can understand them. You can acknowledge them. And you can see where God would have us go, not only as individuals, but as people. As people. Blessed are the peace. No, that's next week. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. As I'm loving people without hesitation and without qualification, I can see God. As I'm envisioning where we ought to go as people, I can see God. And in the midst of all of these things, Jesus has beatitudes for those who are poor in spirit, those who are mourning, those who are meek, for those who are hungry, for those uh, who are in need of mercy. He offers this blessing that is about goodness for the sake of goodness. And so maybe this is a great opportunity for us to throw off all those doubts and all those cynicisms and all those things that dirty up our hearts. And perhaps with God's help, we can reach that purity of heart through which we can see God. May it be true for you and for me. Thanks be to God.